It's rolling.
Rolling. Good morning. Cheers.
Good morning, milady.
Milady.
I got hot chocolate this morning.
Oh, I got coffee.
It's a little too hot to drink. I let it go into the boiling phase, the whistle phase.
Yeah. You can't.
The part of which the phase of which it becomes hot lava and you can't drink it for a good while. And so I'm just kind of like I'm on edge here. I want to drink it, but I know it'll burn my lips. And it's that dangerous dance one does when they're wanting to drink their hot beverage, but they don't want to injure themselves. I'm right in that right now. It's happening.
I understand.
Here we go. I'm going to do it. You ready?
Yeah. Get it.
Oh, not bad. I'm all right. I made it through that.
All right.
The trick is to let it go just like not on your lips, but past your lips right off the bat. That's the trick.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. What do you got? What's up?
I saw 3 things in one day when I was in New York. In one day, I saw a marriage proposal, a fully nude man, and a drug deal. No joke.
Really?
Yeah. Guess what my favorite one was?
You want me to actually guess?
Yeah.
The marriage proposal.
No, it was the nude man.
Why is that?
Because it stopped me in my tracks, and he was really ripped, and it wasn't a sore sight for the eyes, you know?
Oh, it was a handsome nude man. So it wasn't like your street person.
Oh, no. He
was
in his apartment, and he opened the window, and he hollered down to the FedEx guy, and he was all cut.
Cut meaning he has low body fat?
He had the V and stuff.
You're such a dude sometimes.
Yeah. And the marriage proposal, it happened like right before we kind of saw it.
Yeah.
But it was down on the ice rink in Rockefeller Center.
There's an appreciation for a person who takes care of themselves physically.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to see.
I can't disagree with that.
Cool. So you were in New York for some work and it went well.
Yeah.
I was planning on going with you, but I had to do some work of my own on this coast over here, the West Coast. Yesterday, or the last episode, we were talking about babies, having babies. And somebody asked this, which I will say out loud into the mic now.
Thank you.
If Kyle came to Kiley and said, I want to have kids now, would Kiley still say no? And I'm very curious about this.
This stumped me for a minute. It's like, damn, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And then my follow-up thought was, damn, do people think I'm just like trying to justify everything because I'm with you and you don't want kids? And that's not the case. Here's my answer.
Okay.
My answer would be the same exact thing as it is now, which is I know that I don't want kids right now.
Okay.
I don't know how I'll feel in 3 or 5 years. So let's revisit it. I can't see you ever being to a point where you're like, I have to have kids now. So I'd probably say I'm still not ready right now.
Yeah. I sometimes feel like I'm the driving force on that decision. And so it's good to hear that.
Want to roll the thing?
Welcome to Should We Get Married with Kiley and Kyle.
Wow.
Okay, where are we at, honey? Are we really going to do this?
Yeah.
This is crazy. You know that?
Well, so
we're digging up some stuff.
I love talking about topics that are relatable and have to do with other people and general ideas, but this is going to be kind of hyper-focused on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we broke up a few times early on. And
a ton.
We said we'd talk about it for some reason.
Couple times. We broke up a couple times.
Yes, twice.
It was part of our growth in our relationship.
Yeah, we broke up twice. For some reason, you think it's like 4 times because you probably had more in your head.
Well, I have 2 more to talk about where we almost broke up. But why don't you start us off? Because I can tell right now I'm looking at you and I can see all of you can't wait to get out these words that you have in your head.
I don't have anything planned. I'm worried about what we're going to even talk about.
There's no way that's true.
It was 2013 once we met.
Okay.
You know what? We met on Brennan's birthday. I went out with a few friends for Brennan's birthday, and he was your best friend at the time, and we'd never crossed paths.
He still is my best friend.
Yeah.
Brennan is my best friend.
And we crossed paths. We had never crossed paths, and we went to your show that night, your concert.
I used to be in a band called River Giant.
Yeah. And so that's the first time I met you. And you were all up on stage singing and playing guitar, and I was in the audience, and I was just like,
Oh, I was looking good. I was singing well. I was playing the guitar licks really nicely. There was some media in the audience that I was aware of. The audience was packed house.
Yeah.
And it was a fun deal. So I was really I was full 100% sex.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You turned it up.
I was all sex.
Well, I'll say it worked.
You know when you're in your head and you're like in front and you're like about ready to perform?
No.
Or whatever situation it is, you have to execute.
Okay.
And you're just
like a pitch meeting. I understand that.
And you can say like, oh, I can be professional, or I can be a bag of nerves right now. I could really lose it, or I could kind of half nail it and just get out of here. You go through all the things. Like if I can just do this. Well, my approach was like, if I just go all sex, if I exude sex, well, then it's game over for everyone.
Well,
and that's what happened.
It's game over for your life because fast forward 6 years and you have a girlfriend from that night.
That's a true story. You trapped me.
I did not.
Yeah, you trapped me. You trapped me down.
Listen, after that, the next weekend, our friend had a barbecue. I hung out at that friend's house every weekend, and then all of a sudden you were invited that weekend. And I was like, oh my God. And we talked, we chatted, and I don't know if it was that time or the next time you asked for my number, and the rest is history until we broke up twice.
Okay, let's get into those breakups.
Okay.
Lay it on me.
The first breakup was, let's see, we met in March, we were official in June, and we broke up in August. August, we had this trip planned for like a weekend getaway to Eastern Washington.
Yep.
Like Leavenworth area, because 2 sets of my friends were getting married on this same day. So like all of my friends were migrating over there for this weekend. We were going to wedding hop to both weddings. We had a cool like cabiny hotel picked out. You were supposed to meet me at my house. And I was like, my bags were all packed. I was just cleaning up, and you came over and walked in. I was like, hey, ready to go? And instead you wanted to have a talk, and you dumped me. That was guess what? That was the first time in my life I've ever been dumped.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Yeah. I always was.
It's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I did not agree with you.
No, you did not. You repeated the phrase, "You're making a huge mistake."
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember anything specifically that was said.
I just remember that.
I like blacked out or something.
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
And guess what? I went on the trip.
Yeah.
You left. I think I cried for a while, and you stayed, and you were really nice about it, and like you kind of like hugged and held me for a while, and then eventually you had to leave. And I called up a friend. I was like, can I stay with you this weekend?
Yeah.
And I stayed with her and her family, and we stayed in bunk beds, and I cried all weekend, and we played Rock'em Sock'em Robots, and I went to the weddings, and going to weddings is the worst thing you can do after you've been dumped. And
there was a time when all of your friends were getting married, left and right, man. There's wedding after wedding after wedding. And I don't, weddings are cool, but I film weddings now. And I enjoy that, but I used to not like to go to weddings.
Yeah.
Now I don't mind it as much. In fact, I can really enjoy them. But
so were you just like, you were obviously thinking this isn't working out and you didn't want to go away on our first trip together.
Yeah.
In that state of mind. So you're like, the best thing to do is just call it off beforehand, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Why did you wait till the moment we're supposed to leave for the trip?
I did not have, that was not planned. I didn't plan on a time. I felt the way I felt. And when it's time, it's time. And it's never convenient to break up with somebody.
Did you even have a bag packed? Or did you just come over to do it?
I think so. I think I had it out in the car. And it was a lot too soon, and I wasn't as connected with you as I wanted to be or desired. And there's more on that later, because so in all my relationships, all the ones that have lasted, it's usually like a big bang. It's usually like an explosion of feelings and an explosion of holy shit. This is fucking awesome. But our relationship, it wasn't that way.
Yeah.
It was, for me, it was a slow start. It was a slow burn. And you were young. I'm 6 years older than you, or 5, 6?
6. I was 24.
Yeah, you were 24 years old, and I just didn't feel like we had it yet at that point, and I didn't want to go and spend time with your friends and your friends' weddings, and I'm clean and sober, and we hadn't talked about that a lot, and I didn't, I'm good around those environments, but it was just a lot too soon. Yeah, and it wasn't convenient to do, but it was something that I felt was right at the time, and it ended up being a good thing because I saw a lot of growth from both of us after that.
And this was about a month after your band broke up as well. So you were actually already going through a different kind of breakup, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I was really figuring out a lot of stuff myself, and being in a relationship at that point in time was not on my priority list.
And I think I wasn't figuring a lot of stuff out, right? That's how you felt.
What? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I mean, that's a fact. At the time, I don't know that I was self-seeking the way I do now. Hadn't gone to therapy yet,
That sounds selfish. You mean you weren't thinking for yourself a lot?
Well, I didn't know how to set boundaries yet.
Right.
I wasn't getting to know myself as much as I maybe should have been at that age.
Gotcha. That's different from self-seeking. Self-seeking is that's like, I'm selfish. That's saying
Okay. I wasn't, getting to know myself, what I want, what I need, or understanding how to express those things. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't in that mindset.
Yeah, and that's not attractive to me. Mm-hmm. And at the time, if I were to be with anybody, I wanted to be with somebody who had those qualities.
That's why I was so connected and attracted to you. That's why I couldn't.
Right.
That's why when you broke up with me, I was like, "What? This doesn't feel right." If someone in the past maybe had broken up with me, I probably would have been like, "Okay, fuck you."
See you later.
Yeah, but it just felt like wrong. It felt like sandpaper against the grain shit. Like, wait. No, there's something here deep down. I know it. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I was, I think, attracted to that life where you were going deeper with things and like growing as a human being and open-minded and had experienced more shit. I wanted that.
Yeah, and that's what I saw, and 30 and 24 is a huge difference.
My God.
And I'm not. Yes, I'm immature for my age, and I have a lot to room to grow. But I'm also wise beyond my years. I think because I've lived through a lot, and I've learned how to fix some old stuff and to look at myself with a healthy amount of self-awareness. And so I'm not one of those. The age gap was real. It wasn't like, oh, I'm actually 24 or you know, we meet somewhere in the middle. I was a little further along the road than you. But you were right. You ended up being really right about there's something there.
Yeah. And we talked about the age thing because when we were just like early hanging out dating,
Yeah.
I think I remember bringing it up. Like, is the age thing too much for you? Is it just too big of a gap? And you said, yes and no. Like you said no, but it is something you thought about a lot.
Yeah.
Which I totally understand now. Like,
Which, by the way, I don't think about it at all now.
no, there's nothing to think about.
Now you're 30 and I'm 36.
Yeah.
Holy shit, honey. We've come a long way.
I can't imagine being this age and dating someone who's 24.
Here's what was cool is, and this didn't happen in my opinion until after the second breakup, which maybe we should talk about
Okay.
before I get into what I'm about to say next.
So was that the first breakup was August? I don't remember how we kind of got back into things.
Yeah.
I think we just kept in touch and right away and tried to hang out again.
I think there were a couple of texts of I miss you, that kind of thing.
Probably.
You look good. You're looking good.
Yeah.
And then we would connect here and there.
That's
and then,
true.
And then talk on the phone. I miss you.
A lot of talking. Do we maybe hook up too? I don't remember.
Yeah, definitely a few hookups for sure.
And then inevitably got back together. And the next breakup happened, I think, that Christmas.
Yeah.
So like another few months later.
Well, it was before Christmas.
Right. It was 2 weeks for Christmas.
Yeah,
I
2 weeks
remember
before
because I lived in this house in Bothell, and then my sister lived kind of like through the trees in this townhouse. And it was when me and Lindsay owned our own company, and I could work from home. And I think I fucking worked from home for a week or something after that next one, and I would just walk over through the trees to my sister's, and we would watch Gilmore Girls. She would just be there for me. But that one was, I don't really remember that one as much. They both kind of blur together. Oh, I know.
Uh-oh.
We had stayed the night in your apartment in Everett.
Okay.
And we'd woken up the next day and we were going to go to do an IKEA trip.
Oh, we were?
But we were going to stop at my house in Bothell and I don't know, drop my stuff off or feed Noonie. And we drove separately, and you came in after me, and we're like, we got to talk again.
Yeah.
You always made a point to do it at my house.
I probably did that on purpose.
Yeah, probably.
For obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. But I felt the same way, same exact way. Like nothing was moving, and it just didn't feel right. The relationship didn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
And my needs weren't getting met. Some of my needs weren't getting met. But so we broke up, and same deal. We talked it through, and then I think Christmas Eve,
You called me.
I called you. Okay. And then
Fast forward to New Year's Eve, I think I was at the point where I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to go have fun with my friends instead of mope around and wallow and wait for you to call me. So I went to a cabin for the weekend with my friends, a whole bunch of friends. And I remember you calling me on Christmas Eve, or did I call you?
Are you talking New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve
or
right
New
now?
Year's Eve.
I think I called you. Yeah.
And I remember you saying you went to a game night with all your friends, and you just kept saying that you missed me to your friends, and you wished I was there. And I was like, oh. And I think that's kind of it.
You know, it was a big. So I was having a hard time, and I was pretty lonely, and I didn't. This was a really low point in my life, but I still didn't feel that our relationship was ready for a relationship. My connection with you wasn't very strong. I saw potential, and then also the other stuff, my needs weren't all being met. And so it was kind of like, well, it's all or nothing for me. But one of my mentors, I was talking to him about my relationship with you, and he said, just hang on to her, man. What's the worst that can happen? And so that's when I said, yeah, that's when I started to go, well, she's really amazing. She's really great. She's really friendly, and she's beautiful, and she has her feet firmly planted on the ground, and let's see if we can fix some of these things, or at least develop them over time. And it might be me who needs fixing, which ended up being the case in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And so I started to call you again, and you were interested in still being with me, and we took it really slow, and we communicated from there a lot better. Mm-hmm. And we talked about all the hard stuff. I talked about my needs, and you talked about your needs. And it was not easy. It was not easy. The good thing is the sex has always been amazing. So there's always that to fall back on.
Yeah.
But through that stuff, I just had a different idea of what love was. I had always experienced a huge explosion. Fireworks, yes. And what has happened with us is something that has never happened with me before in my life, which it started with a light spark, and now it's fireworks. And it's amazing. This is by far the best and most wonderful relationship I've ever been in. And I think it's because you're so open-minded, and you're willing to deal with me, and I can be a lot. And you give me a lot of room to grow, but I have to ask for it sometimes. And then I give you a lot of room to grow, and you have to ask for it sometimes. And when I have to communicate those things, or you have to communicate those things, it's not always easy, but inevitably we always give each other that grace and that that learning mindset. And those breakups were not easy. I don't want to apologize for them, because I felt like they were really, it's something I needed to do. That's something that I, as a human, needed to do. And I'm not going to apologize for that, but I do feel for you. And I've been through that myself. That was your first time being broken up with. But
I'm glad that happened, though. Yeah. I think I should have experienced that. Especially if something like that happens again, it won't be the first time.
Yeah.
I think it was important for me to be able to look at myself and understand. I mean, all the relationships I'd been in were just so different.
Right.
With the way we communicated, and it was just a new way to go about things, and I'm grateful for it.
Well, I've been living this life of recovery, and you're my first. So my relationships have always been kind to that, but you're the first one who was like, oh, I'll give some of this a shot. And I'm not talking about like going to certain things, although you have done that, but I'm talking about like you would try out communication methods, and you would try out talk therapy with me, and to change our vernacular and to change the way we talk to each other and to think. And that's been really amazing to do with you. And because you can easily slip into not you specifically, but one can easily slip into old behaviors of past relationships on how the conversations would go, how the arguments would flow. And with us, we've been really good at acknowledging those moments and talking about them and not pointing the fingers, but being really honest with each other and moving past and saying, I'll try not to do that. And then working that stuff out of how we communicate with each other, all that bad stuff. And, some of it's still there, will always be there. But that's what's been so cool. And that's when I knew I had a keeper, is because you adapted. And then you probably felt the same way, but I was able to adapt to you as well. And I let go a lot of stuff that I consider to be important, but really it was just me being selfish and superficial.
Well, I agree with all of that stuff. And then I'd add that since I was so young, like everyone is kind of like trying to figure out who they are in their 20s anyway. And probably early 30s. Like I'm still doing it.
Yeah, me too. Forever, man.
So in general, that needs to happen. But then on top of that, you like with the recovery and stuff, there was like even more of that understanding yourself and like exploring all the things you just said. And so instead of being off on my own and doing that and like being single and figuring myself out, I did that in the first 5 years of our relationship. And so some credit to you is that you stuck around through my journey through that. And still, that's still going on right now.
Well, we learned how to do it together.
That's true. And then I went off and had to do some of it on my own.
Yeah, which is really important.
Like
as well.
I think a huge part of the problem early on, the reason you didn't feel a connection with me, and I didn't know this, but I thought I was always really outgoing, easy to talk to, whatever, and maybe I was on a certain level, but I always had a wall up to protect myself. And I think it's the armor that I kind of grew being in my family. And I still remember you saying that one day that I had a wall up, and I was like, what are you talking about? And then I learned that through other people, having conversations with other people too about why I did that. So you could only connect with someone so deeply when they're like that. Like my language was really defensive. I could only go so far into like with intimacy, and I don't mean sexually. I mean intimacy,
right,
in conversation and in feelings and in expressing myself. I didn't know how to do that yet. So how are you supposed to fall in love with someone when you can only when you're kind of hitting a wall?
Yeah. It goes back to being vulnerability being a strength, being actual. It's not a weakness; it's a strength. But on the same token, one has to have the confidence and the know-how and the wherewithal to back that up with firm boundaries. So if you're being vulnerable, you also and somebody is taking advantage of that or isn't communicating as well, you have to learn how to walk away or talk your way out of that situation. And that's not easy, because so like being vulnerable and the other person takes advantage of that. Now that can easily turn into one feels less than, because you put your heart on your sleeve. And then the trick is to know that if another human doesn't value that insight or that vulnerability as much, then you know how to walk away or to deal with that in a healthy way, which is to let go, you know, water off a duck's back, sort of thing. But it's not easy to learn how to do that stuff. And you took to that really well. Like you kind of had that it factor. You discovered, you saw your defenses, and you saw that it was more valuable for you to be open and honest and positive, and you started changing right away, or else we wouldn't still be together. And I have to work on that all the time too, by the way.
Well, I mean, you said wearing your heart on your sleeve, wearing your emotions on your sleeve. One of the hardest things at that time for me to do is express why I felt so connected to you and why I felt it was wrong not to be together. Mm-hmm. And after the second breakup, now I'm remembering you were house sitting at your mom's. We were having conversations about like getting back together or not getting back together or whatever. And at some point, I think you had to say to me, like, why are you so if you're in love with me, you need to tell me, or you need to explain what's going on. And at that moment is how I realized that I was in love with you. And so
oh my God, I totally forgot about this.
Yep. If I could take one thing back, it's how I told you I loved you. I don't like it still.
Oh. Well, what would you change?
Because it was so awkward. Like I just went about it so awkwardly.
Well,
it was after that phone call. I wanted to. What were you going to say?
Well, you told me that you loved me, and I didn't say it back.
Well, that's true, but that's okay.
Yeah, but that was really awkward.
It was really awkward, but I realized after that conversation that I did need to tell you, and I wanted to tell you in person. And so I drove out to where you're house sitting your mom's and like just knocked on the door, and you let me in, and you were making pancakes.
I was?
Yeah. You were making breakfast for dinner.
Oh yeah.
And
okay, that sounds right.
Waffles, never pancakes. Somehow eventually it was like, I need to tell you something. And we like sat down, and I just told you I loved you, and we hugged, and it was so awkward.
What are you talking about? That's super romantic.
I felt awkward in my own skin. That's what I'm saying.
That was another moment where I knew that you were something more than what I thought.
Really?
Yeah, because
I thought you were like, oh crap, she's in love with me.
No. It was amazing because so in past relationships, I would always have to make the grand romantic gesture to step outside of the box and to reach for the stars and take a risk. And I do that in this relationship, but there was never a female that did that for me. And that I really resented that in my past relationships. I felt like
you were doing all the work?
I was doing all that kind of work.
Oh.
Because it's the typical, like, the man's courting the woman. Well, yes, I can do most of it, but I like a little rapport. I like it when the female, I like it when you do that.
Well, okay.
And
everyone wants to feel wanted.
Yes.
And loved.
When you did that, it was like, whoa, this is cool, man. She's really risking a lot, and that's really attractive to me. That was really awesome.
And then it took you, I think, like a few more months. I think you told me on your birthday, actually, that you loved me.
You did the coolest thing I think it was my recovery birthday.
No, it was your birthday because we had a bash at your mom's.
Yeah, and you really
made you a Zelda cake.
You made me a Zelda cake, and you worked with my mom and threw me a party, and yeah, that was really cool. And that speaks to like the 5 love languages. Like I'm really acts of service, and whatever.
Words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Which was my hardest thing to do.
Yes,
Speak
to
them.
communicate
This
that
is
you
really
like
interesting.
something. Yeah.
Words of affirmation is one of your biggest ones, and touch is mine. And
Yeah.
you're not touchy-feely.
No.
And wasn't good at expressing how I felt in words.
Yeah. But now we're better at it.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know that at the time either.
I remember a couple of hard times where you would go for a hug, and it was just like
I needed to be held.
It was not a moment to hug.
To me, it was.
I remember one time in particular, I was trying to tie my shoes, and we were arguing, and you were going in for a hug, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And it got really awkward. And then in that moment, I realized, and you realized, that something needs to change. Mm-hmm. And we worked on that too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and early on, when we were hanging out, we would just sit on the couch in my house and kind of just like stare into each other's eyes for a long time. Mm-hmm. And like we weren't drinking, we weren't out, we were just like vulnerably sitting together and like holding hands or sitting on each other's laps and just talking. And there were like long periods of silence, and I don't think we were having sex yet, so it was like really uncomfortable for me.
That was like the last thing of the 36 love languages, or I'm sorry, the 36 questions that lead to love. Remember, staring each other's eyes for 4 minutes?
Oh, right.
So we used to do that. I don't even remember that stuff.
It probably wasn't even that long of silence.
It was just in between talking to
Yeah.
each other, and we would just stare into each other's eyes.
And just like you would smile and we would just be looking at each other, and it was like, are we going to make
Giggles.
out?
We'd have the little giggles.
Yeah. Are we going to make out, or is like,
That's pretty
do I need to start a new conversation?
That's pretty par for the course for getting to know somebody in a relationship. There's that. That's normal.
I guess so. There was
That you were uncomfortable though?
Well, yeah, that was early on before I was comfortable in my own skin, I think, and had the confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
which is
self-esteem's
constant thing I have to work on.
Self-esteem's really huge for me too, honey. It's
Also, I didn't even understand at the time that I had anxiety. Like that wasn't talked about in my family.
Mine either.
And I didn't understand that I went through a huge bout of depression right before I met you.
Yeah.
Like, it took me a long time to figure out that, oh, that's what was happening.
Right.
And that's like kicking it back to another episode. That's where at the time, the thing that I loved the most that was with me, like presently, was my cat. And I put all of my depression and anxiety and loneliness into my companionship with that cat. That's why I was so attached to her.
Yeah. She was your safety blanket. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah.
That's what my therapist said.
Why did you say it that way? Don't diminish the work you've done.
I don't know.
This therapy is the fact that you went to therapy and you worked through that and you realize that is a big fucking deal, honey.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't knock yourself down for that.
Noonie was my security blanket.
Yeah. Well, I think we should wrap it up soon, but...
Wait, can we talk about you having panic attacks?
Oh.
I think when you say your needs weren't met.
Yeah.
Early on, you were having a lot of panic attacks.
Yes, I was. Speaking of anxiety, yeah. So.
And I was like, what is happening? I didn't know how to be there for you.
Yeah, and I had to teach you.
Which sucked for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I really wanted you to just get it. But what I've learned is that in order for my needs to be fully met, I need to ask for them. And in order for you to be the person I want to spend my every day with, I need to ask you, and then I need you to listen and to work on that thing at your own pace. But in this particular case, it needed to be fast, really fast. But the good news is like once I let go and just I let go, and I was like, this person isn't going to just guess how to do this. And I told you what I needed, and you've been better than I could have ever imagined since then.
Well, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I understand now, I think, better.
And then through the letting go, through also letting you know that I can get to that kind of anxiety, was communicating and being vulnerable to you and to other people, like, oh, I have this thing. Just like, well, that's how I get over things. I put things out on Front Street. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And by the way, I don't, tell everybody on the planet, here's what's going on with me.
No.
I'm really tactful with it, but
Yeah.
it's also, I talk about it more than the average bear, because I think that a lot of people go through this stuff. A lot of people experience low-level panic attacks all the time. It's that little bump
without even knowing.
Yeah, it's that little bump of fear at night, when you just, after watching a scary movie, it's like that, but it's exponentially greater. It's fear itself just kind of coursing through your body. It's really weird. But the good news is you don't die from them.
You feel like you might.
Yes, you definitely do. And the great news is a friend told me, is like, enjoy it. And I was like,
whoa,
what? Go fuck yourself, enjoy it. And then I was like, and I do miss those times, because when I get those things, I don't know what it is, but I go to kindness, and I go to, holy shit, I just need to start working on things, or else I'm going to spiral even deeper down the rabbit
feel
hole.
Alive.
So I end up feeling alive, really raw, and my nerves are just firing off, and I get to learn something new about myself. So I like to put it as like, if there's a creator, if there's a God, or if there's an energy source putting things out there, I like to think of, when I am in those moments, it's whatever that is, letting me know that, hey, there's life to live and it's wonderful, but you got to work for it. But at the end of that work is a little bit of reprieve and contentment and betterment, and new experiences and new actions and a better you. And so that was the whole process of letting you know. And then when I let you know, you soaked it in, you took it up, and you were able to coach me through some of those panic attacks really well.
Eventually.
You took care of me.
Eventually. The reason I brought it up is because of the love language thing again.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand what you needed, because my initial reaction, if you're going through a thing and you're panicking, is to like give you a hug or hold your hand or walk you somewhere. And you don't need to be touched.
Yeah.
You need me to coach you and look you in the eye and say things that like, it's going to be okay. This is going to pass. You need words of affirmation.
Yes.
And I'm trying to give you touch. And I'm like, I'm doing my best.
I need that.
We just didn't have the same.
It's when you're in a point of, when you're in a intense situation, to click into that gear of, I'm going to handle this. I don't know the whole book that's written on the situation, but I'm going to handle it. I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to comfort and affirm and save what I can save out of this. Because if I'm panicking and then you're panicking, then it's game over. But if I'm panicking, and I've coached you through some panic attacks. Mm-hmm. And so when you're going through a panic, I know that everything's going to be okay, because all feelings pass, good ones and bad ones. So I talk you through that. Breathe, eye contact, breathe. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be better. It will change. You're okay. Breathe. It's okay. However you're feeling and thinking, it's okay. And that's how I feel with anything. And if anybody out there is having a hard time, however you're feeling, however you're thinking, it's okay. And things can get better, but it takes some work. It takes some work. So we got to wrap this up, and I love you.
I love you too.
And our breakups are rough, but I just think they were so great, because we kept turning back into each other, and we've evolved so much. It's been amazing. Mm-hmm. But I talked about two other close breakups, and I just want to brush over them really quickly, and then let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Because this one's running long. And so the first one was when I was moving that night when we were deciding if we were going to live together.
Yeah.
And I was moving out of my apartment.
I left.
We had a huge argument, huge knockdown, drag out fight.
Well, let's set the scene, which was
Quickly.
We'd been talking for months about moving in together.
Yes.
After
That's
about
true.
After about a year of dating.
Yeah.
I lived in a house in Bothell with my good friend Jim, and it was to the point where we were spending every night together and going like after work, after trying to work out. We both had pets and having to go to one of the other places. It was just time. Mm-hmm. And I was ready. And we agreed, like, we were going to I think we looked at apartments and stuff. I can't remember. Online maybe. And I kept talking about it. And you agreed until at some point you were starting to push back on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And everything kind of came to head this one weekend. And you were like, I don't understand what the rush is. I think we should just wait. And I was like, 2 steps back. And we you're right. We got in a huge fight and I started crying and you started to just not care. And I was like, I'm late. I'm going to go home. Mm-hmm. And I walked out the door and I thought it was over.
Yeah, that was it.
It was over for me. I was in the car crying, going home thinking, well, okay, I had to leave. I have to be done for some reason. And then you go ahead.
Well, I drove over. I showed up with some of my stuff and I was like, let's do this.
Well, I had gotten home. I gotten in bed with my cat and I turned on Friends, which was the most comforting thing to me at the time. And you called me and you said, I'm here. And I said, thank you. Because you always would say like, I'm here for you. Yeah. And you knew I was really upset. So I thought you were just saying, I'm here for you. I know you're really upset. And you go, no, I'm here. I'm downstairs.
I'm actually
like,
here.
What?
Physically here, yeah.
And I opened the door and you had your massive MacBook. You had your Mac desktop computer in its carrying like huge box.
Listen, I
needed...
needed...
And like a suitcase over your shoulder. Yeah. And you were standing at my doorstep. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I don't know what went through your head after I'd left. I think you just had to make a decision.
It was a jumping off point, and I jumped. And then moving into that house together was like one of the best move-ins. And then we got kicked out because the old owner was coming back, and they gave us some like severance, like some free rent for it, and they were really sorry about it. And then we had to move into this apartment.
Hang on a sec.
What? I want to brush over this quickly.
You got to say, why did you bring over your computer?
I just wanted to work.
No, you said that you needed to bring over something that wasn't easy to move.
Oh.
And you were like, I need something important in this house to like feel like it's mine and to set up shop and to not just like have a bag that I can take back to my apartment.
Okay, yeah. That sounds...
And I was like,
that sounds
oh
right.
Shit, it's serious.
It's on.
Anyway, yeah.
And then our second one was when...
in the apartment in Woodinville.
Oh. No, I was saying, well, maybe that's another one.
You were buying the house.
Yeah, buying the house, yeah.
Yeah, which we kind of talked about.
We talked about that, but...
You were buying this house, and I was like, are we gonna go live there together, or? Right.
And it was more of a no than a yes at that point for me. Yep.
There was a lot of stuff that first year when we were figuring shit out. I was wondering if maybe you had an issue with commitment or if it was just me. And I maybe have never said this out loud. I was constantly concerned that you were still in love with your ex-girlfriend. Like that was always an underlying thing. And I think maybe there was some of that there, but I was like, fuck, he might just go back to her someday.
Well,
because that's some past relationship stuff I have too.
Well, you're not totally wrong. Like I have some past relationships that I will always love them. Mm-hmm. That's just the nature of the beast.
And I'm not like that. I'm not in love with any of my exes, nor do I talk to them.
Well, yeah, you haven't had any good ones, right?
Well, I've been in love, and I've even lived with other people. Yeah. It's been serious, but never was I with someone who I was like, oh, I'm going to marry this person, or, oh, yeah, I want to have a family with this person. I always just knew I would end it with them at some point.
I've had a couple of those.
Mm-hmm.
And, so in this conversation that we just had, there's so many things around the topic, and so many things to interject, and so many things to go back on and refocus my thoughts on and explain them a little better. But I just want to leave them as it is, because that's kind of how life is. Maybe we'll get to recircle around some of this stuff later on in some podcasts. But I just want to let you know that I have been selfish, and I have treated you poorly in some situations, and I aim to fix those things.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, just like in general.
Oh.
You know, sometimes I don't take your feelings into full consideration. It happens a lot, actually. It's just like...
Well, I do the same then.
Yeah, and
I'm selfish a lot of the time.
I just want to say that I want to keep improving and keep being better.
Oh.
Progress. And it is 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and sometimes it's a little worse than that. But...
Man, I feel like we're over all the humps at this point. Like, I never, besides little stuff, I never doubt anything. I'm never worried that shit's coming to an end or anything. Like, we can kind of work through anything at this point.
Well, if you truly love someone, you got to let them go.
That's another topic, right?
But I think that works in the context of a healthy, solid relationship.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at our relationship. If I love you, I have to let you go, and I have to let you do you, and I need to be that fertile bedrock of soil for you to grow, as well as me, and you need to do the same for me. I ask the same out of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think
we're good about that too, because if we allow each other that space, that makes me want to come back to this house where you're at to be with you.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to come back.
Yeah.
Because I'm given the space to do what I need to do.
All right. Well, this one was a long one. And
is it? How long?
We're definitely past an hour.
We can cut out the shit in the beginning.
Maybe we can do that. But I do want to say this. Thank you so much for listening. Mm-hmm. And I know this one was... some of it might have been cringy. I don't know. I'll find out when I listen back. And there's some words and some ideas and concepts that I fumbled around. But I just think that you listening to us talk about this stuff is really important, and it really means a lot. Yeah, it's really important to us, and it really means a lot to us. And we're so grateful for you to listen to our stuff. And we're already building this community with Should We Get Married, and it feels really amazing. And it's a community of curiosity and openness and open-mindedness, mm-hmm. and a safe zone where our thoughts are okay, but our feelings aren't facts, but we can navigate that together. And we can get better and improve together, and, staying positive throughout the whole thing.
And the reason we keep doing this, the thing that keeps the fire burning, is we get text messages, we get Instagram DMs, we get emails, whatever it is, from people who can totally relate with the big topics we speak of and the tiny little shit like needing pillows on the bed.
Yeah.
And that is really cool, even whether it's my best friend or someone I haven't talked to in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. Or a stranger.
It's just like a string of connection.
And
just someone that says, I get it.
Yeah. And you getting it means so much to us. And you giving us the room to grow and the grace to not be perfect is amazing, and because we're not, and that's part of why I love having these conversations, is because we're just fumbling around together. And you're on this journey with us together. We're gonna have some bad episodes, and this one may have gotten a little too serious, and there's not a whole lot of joking around, but it feels really good having this talk with you, honey.
Me too.
On our next episode of Should We Get Married, we're going to be talking about neuroses and pet peeves and some of our own personal shortcomings.
Yeah. And
shortcomings in general.
Yeah, like codependency.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride.
We all got it.
Wow, this was a intense one. I love you so much.
I love you too.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.